Right. Welcome, Immortalites, to another round of the conversations. Today, I have Faraz, although you might probably not know him from his channel Identity Faraz, but also Rude Philosopher. And what's your other channel called as well, mate?
Philosophy in Hindi. That's for
Philosophy. And
academic philosophy.
yeah,
Yeah.
look, I'll admit I have tried listening to a bit
Hmm.
of your Hindi ones just to see. Like, I actually really enjoy languages, so getting into them
Hmm.
and hearing them is like, oh yeah, I can pick out words here and there which I might
Hmm.
know, and you include a lot of English ones in. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. Just
Thanks,
for
man.
those
Thanks.
who want to know, you're a YouTuber, I guess, by trade, or
Hmm.
that's how we first met. And you had me
Yep.
very kindly had me on your YouTube
Yep.
channel for a live one to chat about books and
Yeah.
everything else. So I wanted to return the favor and yeah, get to learn
Thanks,
a bit
man.
more about you, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Hello, all the mere mortals out there.
That's it.
It was very exciting. I was very excited for this podcast. So I was on a break for a week because all those strain and eye strain, all of that, because running three channels at a time is a task.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting reaching out to you. People enjoyed in my community as well. So basically, I run a community of around 160 plus people, members who are on WhatsApp, and they were very excited after the live stream that we had, and they were like, "We want to see both of you again." So
Ah,
yeah, here we are,
and
fellas.
here we are. That's how it works, man. Let's start
Yeah.
off with I guess like a little bit of maybe your life just before and this is informational for me as well because I couldn't really find that much stuff about you. I
Mm.
guess one because your YouTube isn't really that old. I think your first video I saw was September 27, 2020. So it's
Yes.
a year and a bit old now, I guess. And yeah, so do you want to just like let us know, like, just a general detail about you and your life, how where you are, all that sort of good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'll only churn out good stuff for you all. So the thing is, I am currently based in India, the capital of India, to be precise, Delhi.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is where my life has been. My life, I have been moving around all my life because my father had a transferable job, being a government employee, central government and all that stuff. So we have to move ourselves every 3 years or 5 years.
Yeah, so
So
that's
yeah,
like within India you were traveling.
within India, yeah,
Yeah.
within India, people do travel out of India, like Siberia, some parts in Russia, Sudan, and all that stuff, Brazil, and Colombia. But my father didn't opt for that. So yeah, so we were traveling always, and I had this thing in my. So talking about my YouTube, I have been on YouTube. I have been posting content. The first video ever that I posted in my life was me teaching grade 10th trigonometry, mathematics, the same old board, and me trying to show off my American English, which was very pathetic. But yeah, and that was my first video. I still have it. It was on my father's YouTube channel. I made a YouTube channel, and then that is where I just wanted to create stuff. I had this gist of being a content creator inside of me. The articulation skills, I had them inside of me. It was just simmered down or suppressed, because the society which we grow in back here in India is all about studies, competition, academicians, growing up to be to be an engineer or a doctor. So, or a lawyer, if you're not able to land in any of engineering or medical colleges or universities. So yeah, the creativity for us growing up in India is suppressed very much, because our parents do not trust us. Number one, the teachers do not trust us. There is no fulfillment for co-curriculum activities. But still, I found my, you can call it as, I'll be very very easy with the words. I will say that I found my passion or whatever that is in content creation. So yeah, that has been my journey.
That's beautiful, man. When was that first video created, when you're doing trigonometry on the board? How old were you?
um I was 17 or 18. I
Yeah.
still remember. It was around 2016, the end of 2016 to 2017. Yeah.
That's so wild, man. Because I think of myself back at 17 or 18, and there's like no way I would ever be uploading or
Yeah.
putting stuff of myself on
Mm.
on the internet, and it was more like, one, I didn't feel like I had anything to say, and two,
Mm.
there was, and probably the more pressing was like, if I did have anything to say, like no one would care about it. No, like I just get
Mm.
all the sort of, usual bullshit judgment stuff that everyone,
Mm.
experiences at some point and gets past. So
Mm.
that's super, super cool, man. So what I guess triggered you to start your channel, this last one, in this last like year and a half, I guess.
And one thing I'd like to add to that, this mindset that we all have before starting, what will people say, what will relatives say, and what will all the environment around us would say about us creating content, because around 2015, 2016, it was something which was looked down upon, creating content, being a YouTuber, whatever that is. So
Yeah,
what my
for sure.
friends
There
did
was there
was,
was no like people
yeah,
blazing the path. There was no money in it. There was no,
no
there wasn't
money,
like,
yeah,
I could be a influencer or anything like that back then. No
influencer,
way.
yeah, for sure. And coming to teaching, nobody was teaching online at that point of time. So what my friends did was, they spread this word in my school that Faraz is creating content online. My mathematics teacher, my senior mathematics teacher, everyone were watching my video, and I did cuss a little bit here and there, some fucks and some bitches. This is what I did in that video. And what happened is, if I'm allowed to cuss,
Yeah,
I'm
of
sorry,
course, man. Of course, yeah.
you can filter it out. So the thing is, my teacher saw it, and my friend saw it, and I got 500 views in one day. So it was a big achievement for me. Yeah.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. That actually reminds me. And this will be sort of like an exclusive, because I don't think Juan's ever mentioned it on our podcast, but he had started a YouTube channel, I think in like 2011, 2012, and I think it was just videos of him lifting heavy weights, because even though he was maybe like 19, 20 around then, he was always really strong. And I'm pretty sure he even managed to get it monetized back then. And this was when you could have 1,000 views maybe, and you'd get like $50 or something. It was crazy. It was like, holy shit. Looking back at
I've done that. I have done that. I've done the fitness part, because in back here, you are from Australia, you would know about cricket. So back
100%.
here in India, cricket is a big thing. So I used to go to cricket coaching, and I used to post my daily workout meals around it was around 2017, 2018. So I got monetized. One of my video went viral. It went for 150,000 views.
Yeah, holy
yeah, but I was nowhere present in there. That was a video which I took from somewhere else, and clipped everything. That was a net session of some cricketer. So yeah, that was my first pay from YouTube, because YouTube back then didn't have 4,000 watch hour criteria, 1,000 subscribers. I got 2,000 subscribers in 5 or 6 days, and I got around $30, which was a big deal for me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's I think that first time you can sort of earn some money from something you've been like passionate about or worked really hard for, it's an amazing feeling. But then you got to be careful, like you don't chase it too much, and this way you can sort of see it with some people who go down the full, like clickbaity, like overly clickbaity. There's clickbait's kind of good in a way, because it's like, hey, you can see this person actually cares, because otherwise they'd just put up a shit thumbnail that no one would care about. But when it gets to the other side of, a misleading sort of title or thumbnail and things like that, that's where it gets into a bit of a gray area. But
sure.
yeah, in particular, what made you start these sort of like 3 channels pretty recently? What was the like impetus for that, I guess?
So philosophy is something. So basically, I started creating content which was poised around self-help, self-development. But then I thought of, zoning into something, because there are many creators creating self-help, self-development content better than me, having more knowledge than me, achieve something in life, and then preaching self-help content. So I thought this would shackle me, or, hinder my presence on the platform, because YouTube is very competitive. So after 2019, it has been very competitive. When I posted videos in 2016, 2017, you could easily get 1,000, 1,500 views. and getting 100,000 views was not a big deal, but now getting 10,000 views is a big deal. So yeah, so I saw philosophy, particularly in my country, being an untapped potential. It's known as the blue ocean strategy. If you study business or entrepreneurship, there is a strategy known as blue ocean strategy, where you tap into potential where no one has tapped into. So back here in India, there are competitive examinations related to philosophy. If you want to get into the civil services for India, which is the epitome, the epitome of every job, government job back here in India, and in IAS officer, Indian Administrative Services is just looked upon as a king back here in India. So people choose philosophy as a subject, and philosophy in Hindi, in our regional country language, Indian language, is very scarce. And if people are teaching, they are teaching in very monotonous, very they're filled with boredom. That's what I'd say. They take notes and they start vomiting out whatever they have learned. So what I thought is we can incorporate something new into this, because I develop my own philosophies. I've been developing my own philosophy, writing a book myself, writing aphorisms and all that stuff. So I thought, why not try my hands with academic philosophy or analytical philosophy? So what I did was started doing my research, started getting into all the philosophers, all the academic studies, syllabus of philosophy. And what I did was I amalgamated my teaching style, which we back here in India admire too much. Indian population loves, all that kind of spicy content, some jokes here and there, some cussing here and there. That is what they love. So that I amalgamated philosophy with that, and people who literally are not able to speak, are not able to think, are not able to score well in the exams, are doing well after watching my videos.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. And I guess one thing I could touch on with the philosophy is I've always sort of seen it as, like you mentioned, really dry. It's really hard as well. Like it's sort of difficult. And it's not, it always sort of has like a little bit of a glamour, but it's almost like a negative glamour to it. It's like, this is this really hard thing. It'll be really difficult. And if you claim to, be interested in it or something, you could come across as a little bit of like an intellectual, a little bit of a wanker. And I'd say, maybe that still exists. I'm not too sure. I haven't thought it over too deeply. But yeah, like honestly, it's been so long. I've really only started reading some of the classic philosophers, and I think that's sort of how you might have found me, because I did a book review on niches, Beyond Good and Evil.
Beyond Good and Evil, yeah.
They're really hard to read. they're really difficult, and I'm coming to this point where it's like, is this the type of philosophy that I want to read? And I'll contrast that with another book. I actually just finished reading this one here, and it's called Finite and Infinite Games by James Carse.
Yeah.
And so this is not a book that you'd probably see in the philosophy section. I'm not even sure. It is. It does say philosophy on the back, but it's sort of not like a typical one. And it's really funny because all it is essentially his thoughts. He's just put his a sort of idea out into the world, which is that there's two types of games: infinite and finite. And the infinite is more like the long-term strategy. It's more you play the game to continue playing. So it might be someone who is super interested in cricket, for example, and they'll be like an amazing cricketer, but they're not trying to be the best. They just want the sport to succeed. They just want more people to play cricket. And then the finite game would be the cricketer, that same one playing a game of cricket where there's winners and losers, there's boundaries, there's time limits, there's opponents. And it was like a real nice way of sort of viewing the world. And I thought, man, this is sort of like philosophy I can get behind. It's not super hard. It's not super dry. How have you found, I guess, like reading and diving into some of the classic philosophers? So Nietzsche, for example, Heidegger or Plato and people like that. How's your experience of reading their works, I guess?
Yeah,
or listening to all the ideas, because I know you're
yeah,
saying you don't read as much books, but you consume your content in other
yeah,
ways.
yeah. I'll have to take you back a little bit.
Yep.
My history, what it has been. So I've grown up in a family where there has been religious rift, because my mother belongs to a Hindu family, my father belonged to a conservative Muslim family. So, and back here in India, that's a big deal. So yeah, me being seeing both the spectrums of the society, of both the spectrum of the ecosystem, of this specific religious ecosystem.
And were
I
you
was skeptic.
raised in both? Like
I was raised as a Muslim. I was
Yeah.
raised as a conservative
Okay,
Muslim.
gotcha.
Yeah. So the thing is, but still having this in mind, skepticism in mind. I don't know why, questioning everything, questioning why is that, why is this so, why is that so, which I'm trying to mention. I'm trying to portray my story in my book also. So the thing is, I consider myself as a curious fool, because I'm not an intellectual puppet. People who just try to be intellectual wannabes, trying to show off their skills, that they have learned a concept.
Yeah, or
I do
big
not
words,
belong.
or
Yeah,
write things
yeah,
which are
yeah,
incomprehensible to anyone else reading,
yeah,
and make
yeah.
you feel like an idiot because you don't understand reading it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, for sure. I'm not a jargon guy. I abstain away from using jargons. So the thing is, what happened is, I used to get in constant rifts and debates, because this is what the essence of philosophy is: debating. So what happened is, I thought that I have to reinforce myself, what you call as reinforcing your shit. You have to get your shit together, because if you aren't competitive enough or aren't articulate enough, then people will just mash you over. They will just pound you. So this is when I was having debates, giving them philosophical things which have been discovered, which have been researched. I didn't read them, but still I used to, you can say, resonate with them. My thoughts used to resonate with those thought processes. And what happened is, I built a community, because communication is the best way to learn articulation, learn philosophy. So we used to have Google Meets, or Zoom Meets for 8 hours, 10 hours straight without getting our asses up, 10 hours straight. And this is where we learned basic concepts of God, death, religion, afterlife. And then we started building this, And the thing is, then people suggested me that your thought process and your way of speaking resonates very much with existential philosophy. All these philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, Heidegger, Kierkegaard, and Sartre. So you should go and look into them. There are two kinds of people in this world: one who are influenced by philosophers, and me. I went out in search of people who were preaching stuff like me. So I found my comfort, I found my resort in philosophers like these. Like these philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche have paved way for people like us to preach our things, because if we would have been born like two centuries ago and preaching the same things which I've been preaching now, we would have been burned to the stake, to be very honest. Because it was forbidden, and it's still forbidden in many countries, like in Islamic countries. If you are I don't know the word apostate, I don't know the correct word, who deserts their religion, they are killed, they're executed.
Yeah.
Back there in Islamic countries. So that is where I found my resort in. That is where I found that this is the spectrum of philosophy which I belong to. So I started zoning into that.
Yeah, cool. Which ones out of the numerous ones, like if you were saying you're sort of creating your own philosophy, how would you describe that? Because I have something similar, and I'd love to hear your thoughts first, and then I might describe mine and see how different and how we think about the same thing. So yeah, how would you sort of describe the philosophy that you're creating?
So the thing is, I start basically with first of all, what I do is I muster up my emotions, right? and I'm best at writing when I'm full of emotions, dark emotions, not joyous emotions. When I'm joyous, I'm all into creating content and producing stuff. But when I'm very much into my dark side, or you can say the depressing side of me. Depressing would not be the correct word, but you may get that gloomy side of me. So I'm best able to articulate that. I articulate my emotions. So what I do is I try to muster up everything, every observation that I could see. Like, for example, I have been writing some aphorisms lately. So what I try to do is zone into the basics, you can say breaking down everything into the basics. Like, I was sitting in my balcony. I saw my shoe, which was kept on the side of my balcony, and I was thinking that why do people, a shoe is something which helps a person achieve his or her goals. Without a shoe, you cannot reach a job, you cannot run away from a threat, you cannot perform fitness exercises, in a nutshell. But still a shoe is sidelined. Why is that so? How does a shoe reflect the human psychology? Like, this is what humans do: use and throw. Like, shoe is the most important invention that a person could have. But still, people use it. People just throw it away after coming from their workplace, coming from their job, coming from the university, not paying too much heed to how important that shoe is in their life. You know what I mean? So this is what it is. And same in my book. This is what I do. I try to zone into the basics. Like, I try to give life to everything. For example, there is a dialogue going on between a religious person and a curious fool, again, who is me. And that religious person, we are in a there is the family get together going on, everybody's eating their food, and that religious person is so exaggerated by his emotions to pull me down, to tell me to follow religion, that he's having his plate in his hand, a spoonful of rice, but that spoonful of rice is stuck midair. He's not trying to eat it. That rice is now speaking that either eat me or just put me down. That is what I'm trying to do. Don't mess up with me. Don't hang me in midair to whatever that is. So yeah, this is what I try to do. Must have everything fine, because what we think as philosophy, like if we talk about quotes, beautiful quotes by famous philosophers, when we read it, it's like, this is interesting. We could have written that, or this is something which is relatable quotes are the best quotes. This is something relatable. So this points out to something which is, things exist in this universe or in your ecosystem or in your environment. They are camouflaged. You just need to figure them out. There's nothing as discovering something. It's just rediscovery of something which is existing. So yeah, you should have an eye for that. That is how I preach my philosophy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's real interesting, man. I would say for me, it's been like a long time coming. It's almost like I've sort of didn't really think. When I was young, I used to introspect too much. I used to think too much, and that would actually cause me problems, because I would, instead of being jovial and meeting this new person, and particularly with women, it would be like, oh, like, what's she gonna say if I do this? I'd be sort of trapped inside of my head. So for me, I almost needed to learn how to not do that, so that then when I got all my shit sorted, I could then start thinking about things a bit more deeply. And particularly this last couple of years, I've noticed that my general trend seems to be, I always just find like there's paradox everywhere, or like absurdity everywhere. This one thing is true, this other thing is true, and they're both true at the same time, but they can't be true. It's like, how does this work? And then I'll find like little safe havens of knowledge for a bit. So pragmatism. I really like the idea of sort of like not even having moral boundaries or whatnot, just do what's pragmatic. So if you wanted to go to a university or something and you had to cross the road to it, well, pragmatically you'd say like the best way to do it is just to go across the road and then you're there. But then you could say, oh, okay, but there's a policeman nearby, so you know what, maybe pragmatically it's best to not jaywalk, to do like the normal thing, or like by the rules, walk 20 meters down the road, go across the zebra crossing, then go back up the road. And that would be more pragmatic, because then you won't spend 20 minutes getting a fine and all those sorts of things like that. And so it's almost like I'll take that, and then I'll take a bit of Buddhism and a bit of Taoism, and I'll sort of like try and meld them all together, so that I can sort of make sense of the world when it doesn't really make sense. So much of the world, so much of the time, it's just like I have no idea what I'm doing, but this sort of seems to make sense for the moment. And so I always sort of describe it as being like, maybe I'm 20% pragmatic, and then 20% into Taoism, 20% a Stoic, 10% this other little thing that I've got, and then sort of just meld them all together. And it's incoherent. It doesn't really make sense, but it kind of works for me. And how can I tell it works for me? Well, my life is okay. Like, I'm not depressed, or I'm having good relations with people. I'm achieving the sort of things I want to achieve in life. So that's generally how I view philosophy. It's nothing set in stone and like this is the one way. It's like, yeah, there's lots of ways, and it depends on the moment and the time. And if that doesn't make sense for you, that's okay. Like, it makes somewhat sense for me in this moment.
Yeah, it's the same case for me.
I guess it would be I guess it'd be harder for you because you're trying to write a book, and that's a real, words on paper. You've only got so many words that you could fit into so many pages, and so it would be harder to really express that, I guess. Are you finding troubles with that? Trying to, I guess, like make it comprehensible and almost follow like a structure, I guess.
Yeah, it becomes difficult, talking about paradoxes. Sometimes it happens that everything is a paradox. There is no philosophy left in this world. Everything meets, like it's a brook or a stream which is meeting a river, so it's a river. So you are just living in the world of paradoxes. And the thing is, me writing a book, sometimes it is a writer's block. There is nothing inside of my mind, so I do something. I try to play music. I try to do something so that I could get my creativity. This is what I was doing to push myself in the first couple of chapters, but I thought that this would reduce my productivity whilst writing a book. Because the second thing is, sometimes this happens, I get too many thoughts at a time, too many thoughts. And it's like, it's like every word I could articulate into a book. That's what the thing is going on with me. So I can take any word that you throw at me. I could write an essay. I could write a book. So it's like packets of energies, packets of phases which I'm going through. But I have calmed myself down, not rushing my book. People have been very much excited for my book in my community as well. That when am I going to release it? But I'm not rushing myself. I'm not rushing myself. No matter. If only one copy of my book is sold, I do not care. I just want to have my book, keep it at my back, as we had discussed earlier in the podcast me and you had, and just cherish that I have written a masterpiece.
Yeah,
I've penned down the masterpiece.
Yeah. And that's how most great works are created. They're not, if you're writing for someone else, it doesn't generally work so great. It's like the best works are those who have written it for themselves, because then you have like at least an audience of one who's interested in this. And honestly, like it's almost like you'll notice it sometimes when people are trying to predict what you're going to say in the conversation, and they'll like jump in and you won't even get to finish saying what you were saying. My co-host Juan had this problem for a bit where he sort of got so good at his work that he would jump in front of people when they're trying to explain something, because he'd already heard it before. He knew what he was doing. He was like, oh, yep, this is how you solve the problem. But that actually didn't help, because they needed to be the ones to sort of figure it out. It was almost like, he's just trying to shoot information or something into their brain and make them do this, whereas they were telling him things because they wanted to do something. Which is an interesting thought. How has starting your channel as well? Well, I guess did you start writing your book before you started your channels, or was that something that's occurred after that?
It's been around 3 months or 4 months since I started writing my book.
So you're doing the YouTube channel for a fair bit first. How has you do all of yours live? Is that correct? All of your? Oh no, you wouldn't have because a lot of your content was quite edited, and you had those
some of them are live. I used to come live every week. I did that for around 1 year, almost 1 year. Sunday 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. I used to go live, do problem solving for people. So it was like, ask me anything. You can ask me any philosophical question. It was
I listened to a couple of them, and there'd be like some portions where you'd switch to English, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I get it, and then you go right back to Hindi.
So that is what it is, because some people are coming from like the backward strata of the society back here in India, so they cannot understand a bit of a word of English. So I have to switch, keep switching on and off.
What was it like doing that? Because I'm actually starting to get into that with Juan and experimenting with that. And also I guess we're thinking about being able to do it not only on YouTube, but hopefully on some of the actual podcasting platforms like Spotify or well, probably not Spotify. They're usually behind the times, but on some of the actual audio platforms like Fountain or Podfriend or things like that. What have you learned, I guess, from doing a year's worth of consistent live streams?
Yep, it is difficult. It becomes easy. The first I'll break them down in steps. So the first step is getting all your technical issues right. So you'll like take 7 or 8 live streams in a row to get everything right, everything in order. That you have to set up your mic, then you have to set up your light, then you have to set up, like, now I'm able to set up everything in like 10 minutes or 11 minutes. But back then I used to take half an hour because the softbox is falling. And this softbox which I've made, which you can see right here, is a DIY softbox. It's a DIY softbox. I made it out of cardboard, recycled paper cardboard. So the thing is, then the first step after getting all the technical stuff right, making the thumbnail, working with the thumbnail, spreading the word that I'm going to have a live stream. So please do come and join in. What I started with, I used to take questions from my community. Like I used to take 5 questions and then I articulated them. I wrote them on Microsoft Word. I printed them out, so that I could bring something new, articulating their problems which were common amongst many. Now, the second challenge is people consider you to be an intellectual. I do not consider myself to be an intellectual, but people do consider you to be an intellectual, and they will pull you down on the same terms that you are an intellectual, you are a hypocrite. Like, I didn't call myself as an intellectual. You are the one who is trying to put me as the apex predator of everyone. So that is what happens. Recently, this scene happened with one of the guys who used to come in the Google Meets, and I have known him for 1.5 years. Recently, I had a podcast with an entrepreneur who's a very successful entrepreneur back here in India. And he was, at the end of the podcast, he was giving me some words like, you're doing great, you're doing good, you are meant to be great. Some people are born just to be great. You are one of those. And some people were not able to digest that fact, because they're like, this guy used to have live streams where only 3 or 4 people joined in, and now he's getting the recognition that he deserved. And this is where rifts created, and they were like calling me alpha male of the community and hypocrite and all those stuff, because people do respect me back there in my community, because of my thoughts, because of my things which I preach. And I do not take any credit of that, of being an intellectual. It's just emotions, me trying to flow with my emotions, and that is where my words are born, flowing with the emotion. And the thing is, when you are in the chat, many people will come, who have seen you for the first time. When you grow, they will try to question you. Like yesterday, this happened. Someone was asking about antinatalism. That is something about reproduction, natalism. What is your view on antinatalism? So I said, it's your choice. Do this, do that, whatever I said. I summarized that in one line. But that guy started pounding me. You should do your research. You should not speak on something when you have not done your research. This, that, yada, 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 yada. And I was like, bro, you asked me for my view. I gave you my view. And now you are, just pulling me down on no grounds because you didn't connect with my point, because this was something which might have undergone your biases. So yeah, people will ask you many sort of questions. You have to ignore many. You have to ignore many. If you think, I try to answer everything. Someone is asking you about deep philosophical questions, and the next question is, I had a breakup with my girlfriend. What can I do?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
That's
and they'll
funny.
jump out. Yeah, that's very funny. And they jump to questions like, is nofap good? Is the revolution for nofap, all that nofap stuff is good? And then again, someone is asking, what are your thoughts on LGBTQ and all the bisexual people? And you have to switch your mind between that.
Yeah,
That
well,
becomes difficult.
I was going to say that's one of the things I'm starting to find is because I'm usually the one with the laptop, and then I it's a bit of a different dynamic, I guess, all the time, because I'm always with Juan. There's in the book review channel is always just one of us on our own talking about the book, and then the Mere Mortals, like the main channel, I guess, is always a conversation either with a guest like you or between Juan and I. So there's always, I guess, like a little backup person. We always need to have like a little bit of a structure, I guess, because like the conversation will just keep going, and it would be weird if it was just me talking and doing stuff on the computer and he's just sitting there. But yeah, I'm starting to notice that thing as well. Like you need to be good at making sure the video is going good, checking the audio that's not jumping in and out, showing enough attention to one. It's a skill, man. It's not a skill I'm great at, because multitasking has always been a struggle for me. Or
I was very skeptic when starting out, live streaming. If you see my first live stream, if any of the viewers watching this specific podcast, and you have made it till here, then if you go and watch the first live stream I had, it was very pathetic. I was scared. Whenever I'm scared, have you heard of fennel seeds?
What was that?
Fennel seeds are something which is a delicacy back here in India. Whenever you eat fennel seeds.
Fennel seeds.
So whenever you have
I've heard of them, but
you eat that from.
Yeah, keep going, mate. Keep going.
It's like a mouth refreshment, mouth refreshment. So yeah, you take that, and whenever I am anxious, what my anxiety is at a different level. I feel like throwing up. I feel like I get very nauseated. So that has hindered too much of my social life, had hindered too much of my social life. I was not able to get out of my house, because even if I tried to, I would vomit. I would just throw up. I would just puke. So in my first live stream, you could see me eating those fennel seeds because of that mouth refreshment. It's like a combat towards your anxiety. People have some people fiddle with their buttons. Some people, mess around with their hair when they're anxious. What I do is I vomit and I eat that thing. So yeah, I was very anxious back then, and now I have grown this audacity to come whenever I want, have a live. And the second thing which I faced was me being very aggressive. Aggressive approach towards people who are trying to come and pull you down, the trolls who are there. And now I've realized that these people are having fake accounts like SK Gamer, Infinity Wards, and all those stuff. These are the people behind, sitting in their blankets, very comfortable, spending their parents all their parents' money into mobile phones and laptops, and just pulling people down. They don't want to do anything. So yeah, you have to ignore them.
Yeah, you can't feed the trolls. So I think that's one thing I've just learned from my internet adventures since a kid, is that if you feed the trolls, it's bad for both of you.
They come to me. They are like, on Instagram, I want to have a debate with you. I can destroy you. I can they use such words that I do not want to speak them. I can destroy you. I can do this. I'm like, I'm not in some competition of debating,
That's funny. That's funny, because there's I think they would maybe be able to sense something in you where you'd maybe be tempted. So for example, like I've heard for ages, like YouTube comments are like a cesspool. The like if you're online, you're just going to get tons of hate, and like it's more like it's getting worse all the time and whatnot. But I've found pretty much all of my online adventures to be pretty good. Like there's people commenting on stuff have been pretty nice. And I'm wondering if they have like a sense factor where they can tell that you'll respond to them, because I think from the get-go, both Juan and I have been like, yeah, we'll respond to every comment. But if it's like an inane, stupid comment, like you're not going to get a good answer from me. It's just going to be an acknowledgement that I saw it maybe, and then move on. Like there's no room for debate or anything here. Yeah, so I'm wondering if like there's something in your approach that they can tell where, oh yeah, maybe I'll be able to get under Faraz's skin. Maybe I'll be able to annoy him, like, poke Faraz and see what will happen. Maybe he'll say something funny or do something. Yeah.
That is what they want. Yeah, that is what they want. Has there been any incident with you lately? I mean,
not really. Like, there's one video I've made which was on the Gulag Archipelago. So that was Solzhenitsyn's book, and that's a strange one, because you'll get strange comments on there, and it's usually from people who are worried that communism will happen again in their country, and that the awful things that you hear about in that book are currently in process and going on now. And there's this, and I get the concern, like it's happened once in history before, but then they'll just leave this comment where it's like, where did this come from? What are you trying to say here? Is there anything of value in what you're saying here? Because it'll usually just be, probably like a hate-fueled, just really rapid, like, I'm pissed off, I'm just going to write something down. And I'll see it, but I won't really respond to it. It's just like, oh, okay, that's a weird thing. I wanted to also ask you about your multilingual switching and whatnot, and because I find that really fascinating, man. I love languages. So do you speak just the two, Hindi and English?
Yep, just the two. The two.
I mean, like just the two. That's it's amazing. And like I find it fascinating in your videos that you can switch between Hindi and English like that. Yeah. I find that really cool. And I wanted to know, I guess, how did you learn both of these languages? And then maybe I'll ask some follow-up questions on your ability to switch in between them, because I think that's a real skill, and I'm quite fascinated by it.
I'll break this down again for you. I was very pathetic in English. My teachers used to consider me as one of the failures in English, and I was back in my high school, and my relatives used to pull me down because of my English. They used to suggest me watching BBC and Fox News and all those international news channels, so that I could improve my English. My father was very articulate with English. He was like a walking dictionary. So my father was also very much tensed and vexed out for me not able to speak in English. I used to embarrass him whenever we used to go for a parents-teacher meeting. So he used to restrain away from going to a parents-teacher meeting, because he knew she will be communicating in English, and my son would shit everything out there. So what I did was I'll break this down again for you. Like, we are the place we are born and raised is everything Hindi. So if you want to articulate in English, or if you want to communicate or speak in English, you have to first think in Hindi, then speak in English. You have to translate everything and then speak. So this was a hurdle, and then the fear of what the other person will think about my English is the other thing, which was a stone in my journey. So what I did was I started watching movies, Hollywood movies, and I started getting a gist of it. Then I started practicing English, standing not in front of the mirror, like standing in front of anything, and when I'm when I'm bathing, or when I'm in washroom, in the morning, I used to just practice like I am receiving an award and I have been invited for a guest speech. as a chief guest and I'm speaking, addressing the crowd. And then I removed my fear. So this was part one. And when I overcame my part one, which was Hindi to English translation inside of my mind, then it became very easy for me. Like now it's very subconscious. I'm able to, whatever I want to speak, I can speak in English. If you want, I can switch in Hindi. So yeah. And I also know how to read and write Arabic and Urdu. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's super cool. And I guess the reason I'm asking this is because I definitely need a bit of a warm-up period. I can tell there's my Spanish is pretty good nowadays. Like I'm definitely conversational. I can definitely chat with people, and I can still understand slightly more than I can speak, but they're roughly par. But to switch between English and like for people who are just wondering, on your Hindi channel, you will speak a sentence in English, then speak a sentence in Hindi, and you could do that multiple times. And I'm sort of blown away by that, because for me it's almost like it's I need to switch persona. So I've always said there's Kyrin in English, and then I actually prefer to use my middle name Michael in Spanish when I'm speaking with Spanish speakers, because it's almost like a different persona. I can be like, oh yeah, that's Michael. He can, he behaves this way. And this might be tied up a little bit when I was traveling through South America and Latin America, because I was behaving a little bit differently there. I was traveling a lot more. I was less of a routine. I was probably a little bit more wild, so I would do more things, be a bit more spontaneous than I normally am. And I just can't imagine me being able to switch like you do really quickly. Do you find if you that your language levels decline when you do it so quickly, or you're just so used to it now that it's like nothing?
When it started out, it was very difficult, but now it has reached to a level which I would consider as an intermediate level. So what I'm trying to do is, first of all, the main problem was getting the past tense, present tense, and all those tenses and all those things, that fancy stuff in English, to get straight up. You cannot just speak anything. My father used to give me inputs in between, that you cannot use this with that, or if you're using a past tense in a specific sentence, you cannot use two past tense in a specific sentence, and all that stuff. So I used to practice those, and then now when I got everything straight with my past tense and using the correct tenses, then I went into learning new words, articulating new words, substitute common words with words which would make your English a little more bulletproof, a little more presentable. So yeah, that is what it is. And writing helped me a lot. I would suggest anyone and everyone listening to this podcast, do write. I try to retaliate away from writing, try to run away from writing, but writing was something which really cranked my game up. Writing and playing with words, playing with your imagination, and removing the fear. Do not ever think what the other person is thinking about you. Like whenever we meet someone for the first time, we are in this impression that we want to leave an impression on the person which we are meeting, because he could be a potential friend in the near future. And back here in India, if a boy is talking to a girl, then she could be a potential partner for him. That is basic human psychology. So you have to get that thing straight. Don't be a people pleaser. Don't please anyone. Just go out there, throw yourself around, throw your English around, and don't care about it. Will improve. It will improve. The person who you are trying to impress might not be present in your life for like after that particular day. So don't pay too much heed towards, being very articulate. It will happen with time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, those are good recommendations. The writing for me is a big one as well. I've got just books filled with all of these sentences, and I look back at it and I'm like, oh god, that's awful. But you can see it over time. It's like they're getting better. I'm starting to use a couple more different things in there, and it definitely does help. Why actually do you do the switching between the two languages? What's the, I guess, purpose of that? How come you don't just do your Hindi channel solely in Hindi? Why do you mix in English? And for example, all of your titles are in English, yet you're speaking, I don't know, maybe 60-70% in Hindi. How come you do that?
So the thing is, there is one option in YouTube which is about the Hindi Latin language, which is the script is in English, but we are articulating in Hindi. And nowadays, this generation, my generation, and the generation before me has been in exposure to English. Like many of the this is a statistic. The whole of North America and Europe combined, there are still not as many English speakers as back here in India. So yeah. So the thing is, all the call centers which you call into, be it Australia, Europe, or North America, if you make a call to a call center, the people receiving the call would be Indians. All these IT people, and this rush, this fanciness of being an IT expert. This is what it is. So the thing is, I use some words here and there like fanciness. I don't know that exists, but I still used it without thinking that it would hinder with my speech. So many people here are educated in English, so they can understand what is written. They can read it. They can understand a little bit of English. So what happens is, where there are specific things which are said by a specific philosopher, specific person, which should be in English, and I might twist it a little bit when I'm trying to translate it in Hindi. So I speak it as it is. And this is what I do. I try to seem more presentable and professional. I tend to use English. I'll be very honest. Indian people are too much in craze with English, and someone who is trying to speak in English, trying to articulate in English as well, mixing Hindi. So they are straight away gelled to your channel, because this guy is providing us value. We are gonna get, because people have been posting me stuff, they have been writing stuff, and tagging me and asking me for my views. They have been giving me philosophical aphorisms that, please, Faraz, do let us know how it is. And this has been a positive outcome from me mixing both of them.
Yeah,
people have been trying to improve their English.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man. There was a couple of things you said there which jumped out at me. One was that you were saying the philosophers, like in the how you read it or heard it in English. So granted, it needs to be an English philosopher who was writing originally in English to get the words across 100% correct. So if you have niche in English, it's already got the translation there. So I guess, yes, saying that and then in Hindi would be a sort of double translation, which the meaning does get lost a bit. I'm very particular with that myself. I've noticed that I'm one of the reasons I'm actually learning German at the moment is I want to be able to read books in German, because I really do feel a little bit of something is lost. It's not too much. It's not the end of the world, but there is something, and you'd know this with your two languages, there you can communicate and say things slightly differently. In Spanish, for example, is a lot more emotional. There's like 15 different words for happy or gloomy or sad, and yet in English, I would struggle to come up with as many different ways of saying essentially the same thing, but it's got like a little bit of difference. And yeah, so that's really cool. The other was just that there's more English speakers in India than there is in North America. And I don't know if you know this stat, but as more people are migrating from Mexico into North America, there's a gradual trend of bilinguals sort of infiltrating, I guess, more into the country, and not just Mexicans as well. There's plenty of like Guatemalans, Latin Americans, and probably even South Americans going in. And I'm not sure how far in the future it is, but it's decades time. So maybe 2040 or 2050 is there will be more Spanish speakers than there will be English speakers in North America, or in the United States, which I think is fascinating. So you were saying that your English was pretty heavily influenced by that. So who knows? Maybe your son or daughter will be starting to speak like more Spanish or Spanglish when when
Yeah,
they're coming out. Assuming
that
the
trend
United
has been going
States.
on in our generation.
Yeah.
Like when I was in my sixth,
Yeah. Keep going, man.
yeah,
Keep
when
going.
I was in my middle school, sixth or seventh standard, I took French for a couple of years. So I have also studied French, but I did not count it as a language because I'm not fluent with it. I could write it, I could read it, I could understand a little bit of it. So it's a pending project from my side. And nowadays, back here in India, it is compulsory to have a third language, be it French, German, Sanskrit, which is the ancient Indian language, French, German, Sanskrit, or Mandarin. You have to have one language. So
Yeah.
Mandarin has been taken, has blown up back here in India. But French, when we were back then in 2009 and 10, French was something which I took, was a language which I took. And yeah, I've read it and given exams for French for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
In Australia, it's very rare to meet someone like me who has grown up with English, doesn't have heritage from outside of Australia. So, Indian or Asian or, from wherever. It's really rare to find someone like me who can just get away with using English to actually learn another language, because, well, I mean, it's really hard. It's a bitch to learn. And I do actually, I don't put too many judgments on, but I would say like it has for me been probably one of the best things I've done in like the last ever, I would say, was learning a second language and just realizing how differently I could think because of that. Do you find yourself thinking differently when you're like thinking in English versus thinking or communicating in Hindi?
Yeah, that's a nice question. There is something which draws a line, which is the cultural difference which you will get, because some Hindi words are subconsciously connected inside of your mind with a nostalgic memory of something which you did when you were a toddler, a youngster. So it pushes up some memories when you are articulating in Hindi rather when you are articulating in English. So when you are articulating in English, like back here in India, when we were young, the only exposure to English was when we were in our school, because we were not allowed to speak in Hindi. We were only, our teachers used to teach us in English. So whenever I speak English, there are some nostalgic memories of my school. But whenever I speak Hindi, there are the nostalgic memories of me playing around with my friends in the evening, So yeah, that is what the difference is.
Yeah,
the thought process is.
Yeah, that's totally a new idea for me, because I learned Spanish in my mid-20s. So I don't have that experience. I guess like you could say that mine is somewhat influenced by where I was and what I was doing in my life at the time, which was backpacking through Latin America. So I do know maybe I'm a bit more I have a bit more of idea related to locations and things like that. Like if I learned a new word in this country or learned how to pronounce this sort of thing or use the past tense in this country, I can sort of think of that country a little bit more differently, because I learned, oh yeah, that's how you say like I had tenía in Argentina, and that was when I first learned how to start using the past tense. So yeah, that's a cool concept. I never thought of that. I don't have too much more, man, but I did want to ask you, what are you excited for, man? What's your plans for the future? What are you going to do with your YouTube channels? Are you still going to run all three of them? That's a hell of a job, man.
Not three. I am expanding them. I have been building a team. And the team I've started working on an educational startup. Now I have to capitalize the niche of philosophy as well as history, political science, sociology, psychology. So we are building up a team of lecturers and everything. We are setting up a website, a very interactive website, and we are gonna do something very interesting, which is never seen, which has never been created in the education sector in any of the country. So we have been working on that. First, I will tap into philosophy, then we'll slide into history, sociology, anthropology, and try to cover all subjects, all humanities and art side subject. So this is what our plans is. I've also been working with a friend of mine who running her small business. It's a fashion accessory business, so I've been doing that as well. Writing my book, and I'm excited for my book. I've started getting thoughts of writing a new book, which is again on the concept of God and a new concept of God. So it would be pretty interesting. So I've tried improving the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, Arthur Schopenhauer, and all those people. So this would be something new. So many upcoming projects, and I'll keep you updated with them.
Yeah, and studying. Yeah, you're doing
studying my architecture. Yeah, architecture. One more year of my course is there. So yeah.
Busy man. That's awesome, dude. If anyone who's watching from my side wants to dive into some philosophy and stuff, where's the best place to go to?
The best place to go to, because I believe from Kyrin's side, you all would be English
100%
content creator watchers. So yeah, so Rude Philosopher is a place to go. Yes, one more project which I've been working in, and I'll also invite Kyrin for one more podcast. This is a new series which I'm starting, podcast series, which is a debate with. So a debate with an atheist, a debate with an existentialist, a debate with a utilitarian, a debate with this, a debate with that. So I'm trying to come up with a series on the English channel. So you can go and subscribe to the Rude Philosopher channel. I'm coming up with debates, various debates. So it would not be a fiery argumentative kind of stuff, but it would be a discussion to provide some value to the lives of people.
Perfect. So, yeah. Perfect. And if people wanted to connect with you on social media and stuff, where
Instagram, you can go to Instagram @identity.faraz. So,
okay, yeah. Perfect. I'll have those linked. And thanks so much, man. Really appreciate the chat. It was lots of fun.
Thanks, man. Thanks, and thank you for bearing my internet connection. It's been pathetic today.
Hey, that's just the fun and joy of podcasting, my friend.
Yeah, people, and please do give a like, because Kyrin would have to do a little bit of editing here and there, clubbing both the clips. And please do drop a like. Please
do my job for me, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's very important, supporting creators like us, small creators like us. With the support, YouTube algorithm has been a bitch, and people like you sharing, liking, commenting, please do so. And people who are disliking the stream, we don't care. You dislike it. That still counts as yeah, that still counts like as an engagement. So no issues from our side. You may do whatever you want, but yeah, please do subscribe and like. And awesome, these people are doing a great job, man. Creating content and live stream. You people have dived into live stream and talking about books, and your Photoshop skills are phenomenal. Photoshopping your face everywhere.
That's the one. That's the money maker, man. That's how you draw.
So it's been beautiful, and
awesome,
thank you so much.
Thanks so much, and looking forward to chatting again soon.